So Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid have been training together during the NBA offseason, and that just sparked us to return to Celtics today. It's been a while. Things have been slow in the offseason, but we're back. I'm Harrison Graham from Chat Sports. Could Boston trade for Joel Embiid if things get so bad in Philadelphia that he actually ends up wanting out? Let us know. Type T for trade. Yes, they could trade for him. Or type P for pass. Nah, you're not interested. You want to pass. If he becomes available, you pair Joel Embiid with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's a pretty damn interesting trio right there. Get your votes in. We're going to break this down on Boston Celtics Today. You're watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports. Is Joel Embiid going to force a trade out of Boston? Reports coming out that he could be that next superstar that asks out, as things seem to be getting dysfunctional in Philadelphia with all the James Harden versus Daryl Morey drama. And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame him at this point if he did end up asking out. Here's Yahoo Sports on the latest Embiid trade buzz. Daryl Morey is responsible for only the past few years, but in totality, many around the league believe Embiid will ask out sooner rather than later, and that a full rebuild is what Morey is covertly hoping for, which, by the way, just from Philly's standpoint, Morey has never embraced a rebuild in his life, so that's certainly interesting. Here's the bottom line. Joel Embiid is around 30 years old now. He wants to win. The dysfunction in Philadelphia has been there for years, and it's just getting exposed now. And at some point, if you're Embiid, you got to win. You got to chase a championship elsewhere, right? Like, he's given it a go. Now, personally, I think he'll probably see this through for one more year. But if this Harden thing gets so ugly and they can't even trade him for anything and he doesn't play, Embiid might say, you know what, screw this, I'm out. Because while players are playing into their late 30s these days, Embiid is not going to be one of those, in my opinion, at least not at a very high level. He's 30. I think when he's 35, 36, he's probably done. He's a 7-foot, 250 guy, 250-plus guy with injury issues. Those guys don't play until they're 38, 39 years old. Now, this is what's also interesting. ESPN did a survey among their insiders about which star is most likely to request a trade. Completely anonymous, just voted on it. And Embiid was easily the favorite here. He had 40% of total votes, okay? Zion Williamson had 20%. Karl Anthony Towns, 12%. Trae Young, Kyrie Irving each brought in 8%. Ja Morant and Donovan Mitchell and Luka Doncic there at 4%. And Joel Embiid more than doubling up the second closest guy in Zion Williamson, I think speaks volumes, because these insiders are tapped in. They hear the rumblings of what's going on with these different teams, and if that's what they're saying, I certainly believe it, especially if things in Philadelphia don't improve. Now, for Boston, they have been trying to get to the next level, right? Oh, this is Philadelphia, by the way. These are Philly's last 5 playoff results. They lost in the semis, first-round semis. That's kind of been the story for Philadelphia. I was getting confused for a second. Boston, of course, made the conference finals a year before. But I think Joel Embiid, there's got to be fatigue, right? Can't get to a conference finals. I mean, that Atlanta year to me was like the biggest missed opportunity. You get a gift for Atlanta to win their first-round series. You're up, what was it, 3-1 in that series, for 3-2, whatever it was, and you blow that series. Last 2 years, you haven't been able to break through. You couldn't seal the deal against Boston this year. So if you're the Celtics, maybe you're a beneficiary of this situation. Maybe you're just kind of standing on the sidelines and letting this thing implode, and maybe you're there to pick up the pieces when it does. I certainly would not be opposed to it if I was Boston. Now, Joel Embiid, who's been very loyal to Philadelphia, no mention of the Sixers in his Twitter bio anymore. Now, he still does have the process up there, but I didn't even notice this. Changed the avatar recently. I don't know what to make of that. He's still processing, but the process has failed. Let's be honest. Like, you're almost multiple GMs into this thing. Like, how long has Hinkie been gone at this point? Like 4 or 5 years? Like, he's long gone. Joel Embiid even admitted that the process has been a failure up to this point. You haven't even made a conference finals. I've made this analogy a million times. The Philadelphia 76ers are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. They're always talented, they're always good, but they always fail to reach expectations. And at some point, Joel Embiid might say, you know what? I want to win a championship for this city, but I'm not willing to wait forever. I'm not going to be a Dirk Nowitzki and play 20 years with one franchise. I'm going to go chase it elsewhere. You're seeing Damian Lillard do it in Miami. Joel Embiid might be the next superstar to do it. And look, now, is Boston the most likely scenario for Embiid? Probably not. But you circle back to the beginning of this video, and he's been training with Jason Tatum. I know he's lost a lot of battles with the Celtics over the years. Maybe he swallows that pride, and you say, you know what? I'll go be a sidekick to Tatum. I'll be his number 2 because I think Embiid is a number 1 in this league, but maybe he's not a number 1 that can win a title. Like, there's been guys like that all the time. I think Damian Lillard's a great example. He can't be a number 1 on a championship-winning team. He can be a number 1 for a lot of NBA teams, but not a number 1 for a championship team. And Embiid might be falling into that range where, you know what, as special and as talented as he is, with his injuries, with it being a guard and wing-oriented league, come be a number 2 next to Jason Tatum. Maybe that gives you a better shot to win a championship. Now, what it would take to actually get Joel Embiid. Number 1, an all-star level player. Well, you just extended Jaylen Brown. Like, is that the move you're making? I mean, does Philadelphia even want that contract? I'm not so sure. I think you're probably looking at some kind of, like, big salary matching type of deals and a ton of picks. So, like, does Porzingis do enough? Like, does Philly want him? I don't know. It's tricky because now that you've paid Jaylen Brown, it's like, I don't know if Philadelphia wants that contract. So that's number 1. Number 2, you're going to have to trade a lot of draft capital, like 3-4 first-round picks, couple pick swaps probably. You know, Boston has done a good job of compiling picks this offseason. Kudos to Brad Stevens. So you're going to have to do that. And then rotation pieces as well. I mean, could you send, I don't know, Smitty, hop on the mic a little bit here. Who are some valuable rotation assets? Obviously, you don't have Marcus Smart anymore. Like, is Malcolm Brogdon that valuable? Like, I don't know where you turn to if you're Boston in this regard.
You think about a guy like Robert Williams. Could
yeah,
be
that's a good one.
A rotation piece. But then, again, you're talking about salaries matching up when that time would come. And a guy like Jaylen Brown, who may be involved in a deal like this, because think about it, the Celtics can't afford all 3. You have to dump a huge contract, and it'd be very tough for the salaries to match up.
And look, maybe Jaylen Brown goes to a third team. Like, usually these big trades like this, a third team gets involved. Maybe he goes to a third team. Philadelphia gets like a young merging all-star from a team in the deal. You never know how these things come together, but an Embiid-Tatum pairing, to quote producer Smitty, who's our Celtics fan here at Chat Sports, it'd be tough, man. TUFF. That would be pretty electric. And I like Jaylen Brown, but like Embiid, I'm willing to gamble there if you can get him to Boston. Subscribe to the channel when Celtics news and rumors are flying around. We got your back. We're going to hit you with a video. I know we've taken about a month off. We've had some hiring stuff go on at Chat Sports, kind of the dead part of the offseason, but we're back. We're going to try and crank out some more content. Producer Smitty is eager to get some shows put together for you guys, so we're going to try and make that happen. Multiple videos per week coming up. Hit that sub button. Turn on notifications. We got you covered here on Celtics Today. And I think Smitty is ultimately right here when he says Jaylen Brown would have to go. Now, again, does Philadelphia want to take on that contract? That's why I wonder, could a third team get involved? What if Embiid were to request a trade tomorrow? Maybe the Miami Heat say, you know what, we're tired of the Dame stuff. We'll take Jaylen Brown. We'll be that third team. You guys work out the other trade details. Embiid to Boston, Jaylen Brown to Embiid to Boston, Jaylen Brown to Miami, and then you can send role players from each team and picks from each team to Philadelphia. Maybe that's the trade that makes most sense. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Because again, I like Jaylen Brown, but that's a monster, man. If Philadelphia is hitting the reset button, they may not want to reset with that contract. They may want to just rebuild around Tyrese Maxey and go from there. So, not that Brown isn't an asset. I really like him. He's a good player. But if you trade Joel Embiid, like, to me, you're not doing it to, like, still try to win right away. Like, you're acknowledging that you're entering at least a little bit of a rebuild. Now, to be clear, too, with the Supermax extension, Brown can't be traded until next July. But at the same time, I think this is probably more of a next offseason deal. I think Embiid will give this one more year in Philadelphia, but I do agree with that ESPN survey. I think he is the next superstar to potentially request a trade, barring a surprising year from Philadelphia, which I don't expect because with all the Harden noise and this and that, they're not going to get proper return for him. I don't see how the Sixers emerge to the conference finals this year. Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, the New York Knicks. Like, how is Philadelphia going to get to the conference finals? Like, I just don't see a path. And ultimately, if Embiid's available, if you can get him, you do it. You just do. I mean, 30 point, 10 rebound scorers don't grow on trees. And if he's your sidekick or even just 1A, 1B with Tatum, like, that's something, man. Like, him and Harden were a game away from the conference finals, and Harden is a cooked product compared to his peak self. Imagine what Tatum and Embiid could do. That would be one of the most dangerous pairings that we've seen in recent memory. Now, of course, you're always going to be concerned about the injuries, but you know what? To Embiid's credit, yeah, he's not a 75 games per year guy, but it's not like he's been missing 30, 40, 50 games either. Like, you know, and Anthony Davis, for example, he had a 2-year stretch where he played less than half the games. Embiid, at most, has missed 22 over the past 5 games. That's still 60-plus games a year. Like, he deserves a lot of credit for, being a mostly healthy player. And I will give Embiid credit for this, too, and I've always said this about him the last few years especially. He does get banged up. He'll play through injury, though, especially in the postseason. And a lot of guys don't do that, but like a Kawhi Leonard, for example. But he's been able to do it. And that's why the numbers were down the last couple of playoff runs, because he was banged up. But he's still out there. 24-10. If that's your sidekick next to Tatum, sign me up. Let's do it. Jaylen Brown is averaging, like 18 points per game in the playoffs last year. It was not what he did in the regular season. Obviously, you look at the contractual stuff here. A lot of money left on the deal, but you know what? You're the Boston Celtics. You're trying to win titles, man. It's been a while. It's been what, 15 years now? 08? It's been 15 years, man. Got to get back. You were close a couple years ago. Close-ish last year. Let's go. I'd take this deal on. Ship out Jaylen Brown next summer. Get Embiid to town. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Smitty cooked up a trade for you guys, and this is what he did. Joel Embiid and D'Anthony Melton, which I like that addition too. Get a nice little reserve guard. Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams in 3 first-round picks. It's not a bad deal. If there's no third team involved, that's not bad at all. And if Daryl Morey wants to get crazy and does want to still try to contend right away, Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams with Tyrese Maxey is not a bad way to start. Like, that's a nice little young trio, all under the age of 28, 29 there. So I certainly could see the appeal to that. So Celtics fans, would you make this trade? Type A for accept or D for decline. I'm all in, man. I like Jaylen Brown, but Joel Embiid's a better player. Just a fact. He just is. He's a couple years older. I get there's injury concerns, but 33-point scorers, yeah, that's not something that's just sitting around. Okay, final thoughts here. Even after a huge extension, if the Celtics miss the finals again, the Tatum-Brown duo discussion is going to heat back up again. What was the chatter leading up to the year when they did break through and make the finals? This pairing doesn't work. Well, then they broke through and make the finals, and you're coming into last year like, oh my God, this team, they're ready. Well, then you have the Udoka stuff, and then you have, Brown underachieve in the playoffs. Then no one knows if Mazzulla can coach or not. So this is a big year for this pairing. Again, I don't think this Embiid trade would happen right now. It's more of a next offseason deal, but Brown and Tatum, like, the spotlight is on these two dudes in this 2023-2024 season. And if it doesn't work out, a potential lineup like this is certainly fun to think about. You got a pairing of Tatum and Embiid. Oh, by the way, that Porzingis fella is your number 3 is not that bad. Derek White's been a great role player for this team. We'll see if Brogdon's here long-term or not. That remains to be seen, but certainly interesting. It's certainly interesting. And to Smitty's point, to my point, who's stopping this duo? Like, I don't want to make everything about 2K, but Tatum and Embiid on 2K, you're averaging 70 a game with those two. Like, that's just how it's going to go. So we'll see what happens. Joel Embiid, the next superstar that could request a trade. We'll see if the Boston Celtics get involved or not. My name is Harrison Graham. Subscribe to the channel. We apologize for the hiatus, but we are back and hopefully better than ever. Hit that sub button, and we will see you guys next time. Go Celtics.